Sorry, guys. I was busy reading then. Hi, welcome to the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast. It's me, Alex Whiteley, and today I'm joined by a good friend of the show and one of our first guests. I really enjoyed our last interview, Mr. Ron Morgan. How are you, sir? You all right?
Yeah, pretty steady. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, it was really nice to catch up. I mean, I love to when people come on the Shrewsbury Biscuit, we make friends with people, and we like to get them back on anyway. And I think I said to you, I'll definitely come back on, and here you are. I mean, it's been a crazy journey with the biscuit. It's been 3.5 years of hard work, and I just remember like I've been doing a lot of listening back to old shows and stuff because I'm re-releasing our vintage episodes. Look, guys. On our YouTube, our older episodes, we're re-releasing them, and when I look back at how the Shrewsbury Biscuit began and where it is today and how it's grown and stuff, I think about how grateful I am for the great guests that I had at the beginning, like yourself. Ron came around, had a cup of tea, and had a chat. That's what it's all about, really.
Indeed, yeah. And indeed, you've done a grand job. I mean, look how far you've come in all that time. We all learn as we go along as well, but you've had some fantastic guests, and we all learn a lot about people in our community.
Yeah, and you know, I am going back. I've got this it's a tiny little Polly Pocket thing. It was from a notebook, and you put your business cards in it, and it's full of business cards from right at the beginning. And I was going through them, and I was like, oh my god, I should have spoken to them. Oh my god, and I've revisited people that I said I'll get on the show, and this never happened because I'm rethinking about how this all began. And you know, I was thinking about Reeking Whiskies and Mike Hale, and my original idea for the biscuit was to add a story to a shop sign. You know, you walk past something at the Cop and you've never been in there before. Maybe if you'd heard a story about Reeking Whiskies, you might pop in and say hello if you'd heard them on the Shrewsbury Biscuit, you know. And
exactly. And you find out where they are because you hear the name and you think, well, where are they?
Yeah. And Shrewsbury is just like, it's just a maze of great little stores and little places you can find that you probably live here for years and not realize that was there where it was, you know.
It is. It's unique.
And when we talk about shop signs and the name of a sign, there's history there as well when it comes to Shrewsbury. Lots of stores have been in the store before the store and the store before that, and you know, lots of names have changed. And I think it goes to show that your new book, Ron, Morgan the Travel, there it is, guys. That it's brilliant at explaining how things change, you know, especially when it comes to luxury tours and where you started and how things have changed over the years and how businesses move up and down, you know, Mardle where you guys were, you know, over the years things change, but you know, there's these amazing stories that we could tell people, and I think your book does a great job at that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, what made you write Morgan the Travel? Obviously, we got you on to bring you. We did the interview before about Don't Bring Me Flowers, which was a very good book. Really enjoyed that. What made you start writing Morgan the Travel? What was the inspiration there?
Well, I think essentially it's been my life. You know, I've been over 50 years in the travel industry, and I think in many ways I wanted to leave something for posterity, for the children, family, friends, colleagues, clients who, fortunately, but most clients became friends anyway. And I think I just wanted to log as much as I could of it. I mean, as you see, it's a huge tome in itself. It's about 500 odd pages. And some people will be relieved to know that the copy editors and various people removed 100 pages. But I'm not threatening a sequel. Don't get me wrong. But the whole point is that it's just a bunch of anecdotes, but it is a bit of a chronologic look at travel, really, and how it's changed and how I've been involved in it.
I think it's an amazing idea. I mean, like Shane came up with this amazing idea that we've never done before in the biscuit. We're kind of going to be doing something similar, maybe away from the biscuit, something we're working on. Keep your eyes peeled, guys. But it was Memoirs of a Salopian, right? So we talked to people of maybe the silver generation, I call it. People that drank in pubs that aren't here anymore, worked in places that aren't here anymore. You know, you have these conversations with people and you're like, oh, I remember that place. Oh, that school isn't there anymore. And these are the stories that we need to tell, isn't it? It's all about nostalgia and just traveling back there just for a little bit.
Of course, and the great thing is, of course, as people get older, they've got lots of stories to tell. But once they're not around, they're not telling them anymore, are they? That's why I think
Exactly.
it's important to put it in, well, through yourself in podcasts and what have you, but
Mm.
also in books, so people can pick it up anytime. And I'm a
Oh,
big
more
believer
importantly, books. More importantly,
I'm a big
books.
believer in the books. It's not just old fashioned. I think it's important, rather than just online, because things get disparate online and disappear and what have you. So the book is there pretty well forever. Well, it's in the British Library forever, that's for sure.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I want to thank you actually, because it's a good time. It's been a while since I've really disappeared into a book, and I was an avid reader for a while, and I'm busy, guys. I'm busy. All right.
You are.
So I never have time to sit and just disappear into a book, and I miss that feeling of I've been reading for 3 hours. What? So,
Yeah.
I thank you for getting me back up on the horse, shall I say? Yeah, it's really important to revisit that. I've got to say though, Don't Bring Me Flowers was a fictional story. This is a recollection of your memories and stuff. How difficult was it to go from a fictional story to writing something that is factual? Even if it's just your memories, was that difficult?
It was a slightly different process. Obviously, it was more personal, and everything, instead of being created in your mind, was actually being recalled in your mind. And fortunately, my good lady, who I've travelled for at least half of that time, 25 plus years, she's got a fantastic memory. So I'd say something and she'd go, "Oh, no, it was," and she'd sort of correct me. She's got a fantastic memory. She'll tell me what I was wearing 25 years ago. Now, hey, I wouldn't know what was happening yesterday.
My wife is terrible when it comes to like movies and music and stuff. I could be like, what was that film with Leonardo DiCaprio? Very famous film or something. She'd be like, I don't know. But when it comes to like a point she's got to prove, oh my God, she picks out all the details. She knows everything. It's fantastic.
There you go. It's about teamwork. You both have different qualities and different experiences, don't you?
I want to say thank you to your wife as well for dropping the book off. She cycled to my apartment to drop the book off. Bless her. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. She's pretty fit. She's either dancing or cycling or doing something.
It's one of those, right? Because okay, guys, I may have mentioned this a couple of times. I suffer from social anxiety, so sometimes I won't act the way I should have, or what have you. And your wife left, and I was kind of like, oh, I should have invited her for a cup of tea. Oh my gosh, she's gone. She cycled to me to drop the book off, and I didn't. Normal social etiquette would be like, want to come in for a cup of tea, but I didn't. So
you'd have been lucky to nail her down. She's usually off to another gig or appointment of some kind or other.
What I loved about you, I both loved. It was a mixture of emotions. Is the first sort of chapter or two of your book was very honest about your dances with cancer, and I love that. By the way, I really do love that. You're not fighting, you're not battling, you're dancing with cancer, because I feel like cancer is such a huge umbrella term. When people go, "Oh, it's cancer," he died of cancer. People don't realize that what actually goes into that. If it's not really affected you, if it has affected you, then you know. But if you've spent a bit distance away from cancer and it's not really affected you much, when you hear the term cancer, you don't realize the intricate sort of tiny little battles that go into the war. There. How hard was that for you to write, or was it actually quite easy to get off your chest?
It was cathartic, really, and but I think it was important to express to people, it isn't a bed of roses when you get cancer if you're going to be treated for it and what have you. But the most important thing is, I think, is that word cancer immediately fills us with dread as soon as somebody says it. Oh, I've got cancer, or I've been diagnosed with this, that, and the other. But the reality is, when you get your head together, is well, okay. Well, how are we going to deal with that? And it's been a bit more pragmatic and practical about it. Not always easy to do. You've got to have good people around you, people who love you, people who care, people who are forthright. And I think it's just important to express what my journey's been, and hopefully it'll give people inspiration and hope to tackle it a different way. That's why I use the term dancing with cancer. You hear fighting, battling. It's like, oh my goodness, we're in the trenches. And you are to an extent. And don't get me wrong, you get some down days, where you just think, what's it all about? But for every one of those, I like to think I have plenty more positive and forward-looking days, because it's no good looking back. Cancer's here; you got to deal with it. But when you think I was told almost 7 years ago now, 6.5, 7 years ago, to go home and get my affairs in order. That's it. Good night, nurse, so to speak. And you think, whoa. You don't hear it, to be honest. It goes over your head. And
Yeah,
the
I've
book,
heard that
as you know,
before,
expresses it. You're like in a fog. But it's strange. Once you start applying yourself to it and getting your head around it, there are ways you can approach it. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people have quite an aggressive cancer, but that's why you have to hit it and get the operations done, the procedures done, the chemo done, the radiotherapy, whatever it takes to slow it up and give you time. Because they're making advances all the time in cancer, and I think it's so important that you always have hope and every day, as I say in the book, you've got a choice. You can give up, you can be negative, or you can say, it's a lovely sunny day, I'm going out for a walk.
And is that kind of what spurred on this book? Because kind of I need to get these down now while I can.
It was a big part of it, because at the end of the day, when you're told go home and get your affairs in order, they're talking about a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, And to be here 6.5, 7 years later, I didn't know that. So I wrote, Don't Bring Me Flowers, because I always wanted to write an historical fiction novel.
Yeah.
Then I thought, oh, whoa, I've got a bit more time. Perhaps I'll write something else. So I wrote a children's book. And then I thought, perhaps I got more time than this. So I started to put down the notes and work on Morgan the Travel. And blow me, I've been blessed with the time to get it done and published.
I do think it's a brilliant. I'm going to say it's a brilliant motivator, but that's a really terrible thing to say. But it really is. And what I loved about the story, it's your life. I say the story of the book, is how you're like, no. This is a diagnosis. This is what's happening. Very slim chances of getting any sort of, and you kind of kept banging that drum, and you went and found the treatment that would give you that extra bit of time. And I think that's really important. I've spoken to a few doctors over the years with US, UK, You Suck, the other show that I've got. We've got a great partnership with TV Guestbert over in LA and in America, and they supply us with guests that we talk about. So some of them, we've been very lucky to speak to some very, very well renowned doctors, and one of them is a very well renowned biopsy doctor, and she came on Pod Aid. And she told us about how you should take responsibility for your chart. Have a look at that thing that's hanging on the side of your bed. Know what you're looking at, and make sure you ask the questions, and make sure you take responsibility for what goes into your body. Know what's happening to you, and make sure you press for those things that may give you a bit of extra time or better understanding of things.
Yeah, and it is critical to do that, because these health professionals, they're under a lot of pressure. And they're excellent. Most of them are absolutely excellent, but all of us can miss something slightly, and it isn't intentional. But if you've got to keep on top of it yourself, and if you don't understand something, hey, I didn't come from a medical background. My wife fortunately did, being in nursing. So she's been a great advocate and supporter and questioner, if you like. She certainly, pushed some of the consultants' buttons at times, because we wanted answers. But you also read up an awful lot on it. And they say about, don't go on Google or don't go on the computer there, you'll have everything. But the bottom line is, when
I'm losing my arm.
Exactly. People do get gosh, my mum used to have so many medical books. She wasn't computer literate. She used to have so many medical books. She could have been a doctor. Goodness gracious me. But she had to read everything instead of saying, oh, well, I'll put some cream on it, or I'll do this, or I'll do that, and carry on with life. But of course, when it's something serious like cancer, and it's there, there's fonts of knowledge you can go to and areas you can go to and learn more about it, not least of which our own sort of setup, like cancer research and people like that, and you get Macmillan nurses. And of course, in our own society, we've got great people like Seven Hospice, and it isn't always about, managing end of care life. It's sometimes helping you in that time, like when you got cancer and that, to have sort of therapy treatments, which make you feel a lot better. And that's the critical thing. Try and remove as much stress from your life as possible, whether you're well or suffering with something.
It's a nice place as well. Got a really nice cafe there as well. So we met up with the Lincoln Davis girls. Shout out to those guys, the fundraising team, after Pod Aid for celebratory cake and just a debrief. It was nice, and we were chatting to one of the the campaigning managers for Seven Hospice, because they all work together, even though they're like separate charities and stuff. They all work together. They all kind of understand the field a bit and what you can and can't do. And it's really nice seeing them guys chatting about what works and what it's really nice. And they introduced me as the biscuit guy as well, which I like. It's the biscuit
good
guy.
Man. Good man.
I've spoken to you about this before, as I've spoken to many authors actually on the show about how that's my sock drawer, the famous sock drawer behind me, guys. The angles and stuff. There, and inside there is a little synopsis rolled up in a thing for a book that I've had for a few years, and I just can't do it. I've written the first chapter of this book. I can't do it because being up inside the head is just a nightmare for me. I struggle with how to put things. I argue with myself. No, you shouldn't put it like that. No, maybe you should. You're writing too much. How is it for you doing that process when it's your life and you've got the facts there, but you're trying to put it all in order and remember it all?
One is discipline. You've got to be disciplined and get up and write. To your own, especially if you're having chemo or something, you don't always feel like it. But you've got to try and say every day, I'm going to write 500 words. Or 1,000 words. 500, I think, is a reasonable target. And you say to yourself, and you can write it down, and you might not like it. Taking your point, you might not like it, you might disagree with it, but you write it all down, and next day you write another 500, and so on and so forth, and you move on. After a while, you might say, perhaps because I'm having chemo or for whatever reason, you put it in a drawer, you rest it for 4 or 5 days. You go back and read it, and you think, that's not quite right. I need to change that. I do this. It's a bit like writing poetry. You something, put it down, come back to it, and you think, I think it'll flow better if I write this. It's sometimes good to rest from it, but what you've got to get it down in writing first. Don't leave it all in your head because you need to play with it.
When you're looking at aspects of your life, can you almost storyboard it? Can you be like, chapter 1's going to be this. Chapter 3, we're going to talk about how I started in the industry and the dreaded printer. All these kind of things. Can you put them on a board and be like, right, we've done this. So 40% of that chapter is done. 50. Can you go back and forth, or do you have to do it chronologically to make sense?
Depends what you're writing, really. I think with an autobiography or a biography, for that matter, if you're writing those, I think it's easier to make it chronological from my point of view. That's not everybody's approach to a biography, but it makes sense because it's easier for the reader to follow.
Yeah. And the industry that you're part of, travel, has changed so much. I mean, even since I was a kid, there's when you go to a travel agent, and it was almost like David Walliams in Little Britain, when yep, the typing on the keyboard, and they got the black and the black screen with the different coloured writing, and it was just an amazing experience going to a travel agent and trying to find that hotel and find the flights, and it was just but you go back further from when I was from a different generation, and things that changed constantly, right? I mean, it must be an alien world back then compared to what it is now.
Well, if your weapons for contact were essentially a telephone and a telex machine, and if you can imagine how busy, well, obviously COVID's messed this up, but in a normal travel year, although life has changed and it is more 12 months now, when I first went into the industry, travel was primarily about the summer. There wasn't much winter sun holidays, winter ski holidays. There were there, but there was no volume there at all. It wasn't commercial. And of course, in the winter, anybody who traveled in the winter were invariably people who were migrating for the winter, perhaps to South Africa or to Australia. And they weren't flying there. For the most part, they were sailing there. So they were gone for weeks and weeks sailing there.
Wow.
And then sailing back. So you can imagine they had to be the retired, really, didn't they? They had people who had time.
I'm gonna need 4 months vacation off my job. Imagine.
It wouldn't work. But of course, life has changed because of the jet engine, hasn't it? Because of aircraft and what have you. And the volume of people traveling brings the cost down. Yeah.
Of course, that's what I was going to say. Availability. You go to Canaries now. You go to the Canaries now. There's hundreds of hotels, whereas back then, probably a few. I imagine it's changed an awful lot.
Well, that's the strange thing, of course, for somebody like me, 50 odd years, and people older than me that have travelled, they almost don't want to go back anywhere because the little fishing village they once knew is now all concrete.
Yeah, I was going to bring that point up. Ibiza. Now, a place like Ibiza used to be very quaint places that people go and enjoy the sun. Now it's clubs and bars and crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. When I worked and lived in the States, we used to head to various places in that sort of neck of the woods. I remember taking a trip down, which I think I mentioned in the book, about to a little village in Mexico called Cihuatanejo, and it was a beautiful little village. Fishing boats on the beach turned up, little children all in their Mexican dress, because that was the way they dressed, not just for the tourists. That was how it was.
Yeah,
and now they're just all high rises, Las Brisas, the Marriotts, all the big hotels are all there. And to me, it's lost it. It could be anywhere in the world.
Yeah. And then, the things that were a tradition are now a novelty. Like, I remember very luckily, one of the first places I got to go to properly abroad. I say properly abroad. My family's in Ireland, so I was always back into on a little plane there. But that's not abroad to me. That's going to meet dad's, But like properly
beautiful
abroad.
Country, though.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I mean, he's at first it was in Kerry, so we'd go to Dingle Bay, and then he moved to Bantry Bay, which is it's in West Cork, which is right on the bottom.
Oh, splendid places to explore, especially Ring of Kerry.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So many great memories of traveling there when I was a kid, whether it be on the ferry, whether it be on the plane, the first place I very luckily got to travel was Hawaii. I was with the right girl at the right time, and what amazed me was these tiny little islands are just a dot on the map. Had like the 11th biggest city in America, Honolulu, massive, huge but city, and I always made me laugh how they had this guy in a grass skirt, and his job was to run through the city with a tiki torch and light lanterns as he goes along for the tourists to get the pictures, And I was thinking, wow, that's how ironic is that,
No, but then it's obviously feeding into what the tourist wants to see, isn't it? Albeit fabricated. And you find it the same in places like Fiji, the South Pacific Islands, the hotels at night as it gets to dusk. The guys in sort of these same as you say, really little sort of skirts of palm fronds and what have you, wander around. They've got all the makeup on and what have you, and they're lighting all the torches, and it looks fantastic. It really does look fantastic. But they only do it for the tourists.
Yeah. Go home and play on the Xbox afterwards.
Well, quite possibly so. Yeah.
I mean, it's one amazing journey to relive twice. Because I imagine like everything you've been writing in Morgan the Travel, to get it into a book would almost be like revisiting all that back then. Was that because I've been having this battle with nostalgia lately, right? Because I love nostalgia. I love looking at nostalgic things when I was younger, because it's really nice. But there's always that longing to go back there, right? And I always think, well, you don't want to go back there, Alex, because you were a bit fatter. You were definitely a lot broker then. Life wasn't as great there. So let's just enjoy the memory. Let's not long to go back there. Because life wasn't that great. But you sound like you had some great adventures, Ron, with your travels.
Over 50 odd years, you're going to pile up a few adventures, some of which probably wouldn't have been good to put in the book, but there you go. It's as you're younger, you experience different things. Like when we went to the States first in the middle of the 70s, that was, now it's a given. You just fly over, that's fine. But we went because Freddie Laker started his cheaper flights, the charter flights, ABC charters as they were called, and it was because their costs came down. We went, and we had some friends there that we could at least hook up with to start with before we went on the journey. But what a journey that was, and it was America before it developed in our own mind with commerciality. It was still the American of my childhood, where I was brought up with cowboys and Indians on television, with the Lone Ranger and the Cisco Kid and Hopalong Castian, names you may not know here. But that's sort of what I expected to go out and see. And in the Wild West, it was, not quite as wild in the 1970s as it was in the 1870s, but it was nevertheless the tenets of it, the basis of it was still there.
I mean, I've spoken to a few people about New York, and I mean, I love speaking to people about America. I love them American. I love comparing British and American culture. And I've heard so many times about New York and how, you look at the movies and things, but like New York in the 70s, especially the 70s, 80s, probably early 90s, was just a dirty place. You go there and you'd be like, oh, it's disgusting, because like you see it in the movies, it looks really glamorous. I've got this romantic idea of Christmas in New York. The Home Alone, big
and
trees.
it is fantastic. You can get down there and go on the sort of skating rinks in New York City there, or just sit and have a coffee and watch them. Yeah, by the Rockefeller Center, and it's a fantastic experience. When I went in the 70s, it was dangerous. Boy, it was. I'll tell you, we used to travel as a group at night with friends out there, about 13 to 15 of us, something like that, on the subway, because you didn't go alone. It's as easy as that, But then certain mayors arrived and cleaned up the city, and it's changed for the better.
Well, you've got all this experience, Ron, and I'm glad you've taken the time to share your experiences with people, because, like you said, these experiences are just gone otherwise. They need to be documented. Did you? I mean, you shared a couple of photos in the book, which I'm not gonna spoil, because I think you guys should definitely pick up the book and read it. But like you shared a few pictures. Do you have many like film reels and did you get a video camera? Any record anything there? Because I think footage like that is valuable, isn't it? Really is.
Yeah, no, plenty on video. Again, especially from the last 25 years, because Diane was pretty good with that. Anybody who knows Diane, she doesn't like to be in the pictures, but she takes a lot of them. Photographs, and she's got a penchant. She's very good. She sees a picture. It isn't just a click. She sees something that I would never have picked out. And her videos are fantastic. And it's lovely to watch old videos because, as I mentioned in the book, I spent a lot of my life escorting groups. So I made a lot of friends with those people. But, of course, they're all in the videos too. So there's lovely memories of them as well. And some of the older ones, as we all get old, we disappear, obviously. But it's nice to have the smiles and the stories of those people too, in a different venue. A lot of them were farming because we come from agricultural county and the borders with Wales. A lot of these guys were farmers, and now it's their children running the farms.
It's really nice. And, one of the things that struck me is, I was just reading last night, is about you sitting down with the Bay City Rollers, all these amazing acts that would be playing at hotels around during your travels. And I'm thinking, could you like, they're like, at the time, A-list, B-list stars playing at hotels around the world. And you don't see that today. I mean, I've just come back from Skegness, which is fun. We learned a lot about ourselves as a family. But what I've got to say is the entertainment. what I'll say about the entertainment and the club, it was really good actually. Like they were very, very good at what they do, because even though you don't get like the A-list, B-list stars go around to these resorts. Obviously, this is because there's so many of them now, all around the world, around the UK. And I feel like there's more of an effort put into the quality of the entertainment you get now. But they've learned a lot. The blue coats, the red coats, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think also we mustn't forget that a lot of the people who end up as stars started places like Butlins and Pontins, as it used to be, and those sort of places. That's where they cut their teeth.
Yeah. When's the last time you went to a travel agent, Ron? And was it like, do people recognize you as Ron the travel guy, or do you ever go in there and be like, oh, whenever do you share stories with people and travel agents and stuff? Have you done that before?
Obviously, I do keep in touch with one or two people that I used to work in the industry with. I don't tend to go into the agencies now. They're well, obviously the last 18 months has been disastrous for them, and I feel so sorry for them. It's been tough. But Claire, who I used to work with, she used to manage the travel company we had, Ron Morgan Travel. She's excellent, and she's at Peaks Travel now. She's a partner in Peaks Travel, and she's a lovely lady, very knowledgeable, and they've got a great staff and what have you there. And I think it's come full circle, really. Although people still look at the internet and try and do things themselves and what have you, to have the security and knowledge of going to a travel agent. Very competitive in price as well, if people weigh that up. Plus, you've got them to fall back on with different questions, or if you've got a problem abroad or whatever. And people forget that, because issues obviously do happen. And it's a minefield at the moment, isn't it? With COVID testing and all the visas that have changed as well, with this coming out of Europe. And there's all sorts of things that have changed there. So I think the travel agency is still very important. But to answer your question, I don't really have a whole lot of contact with them now. I suppose I'm of a certain age where they're all a lot younger, the guys there, but they may remember that. I actually mentioned in the book, I'll have an aside, that I used to do some teaching as well, travel and tourism. And I remember going, I was invited into Shrewsbury College, and the travel lecturer there sort of said, right, we've got a special guest today. We've got somebody who's well known in the travel industry, meaning locally, of course. Mm-hmm. And they said, who do you think it might be? And I can remember walking in, and a young lady at the back of the class put her hand up, and she says, and the tutor sort of said, who do you think it is then? And this girl sort of thought I was Thomas Cook, who died about 100 odd years ago.
Well, you taught my wife as well. You taught Carolina.
I did. Yeah, Carolina was an excellent student. Yeah, she was.
Yeah, that really excited her when you came around for the first interview. She said, she taught me travel and tourism at Shrewsbury College. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, she did very well now. And of course, with her background, with the Colombian background, there's a general interest there internationally, isn't there?
Yeah, of course. And Colombia is still on the red list, unfortunately. I laugh. I shouldn't laugh because...
Oh, dear.
Well, they're meant to abandon the red list thing. Well, not abandon it. They're going to sort of put some measures in place. Because we're trying to get her nan over. Unfortunately, they just had, last year, they had a death in the family, and she's on her own. So we want to try and get her so that we can look after her. So try and get her over.
Yeah.
So that's been the battle that they've been trying to fight over the last sort of 6 months. Has been insane, but
it's been tough for families, hasn't it? I mean, my son's partner is a Chilean lady, and all her family, she hasn't seen them for 3 years. It's so sad. I know you can go on Skype and what have you, but there's nothing like hugging your relatives, is there?
I want some Colombian hot chocolate. And usually someone's coming back from Colombia and they can bring the hot chocolate because they make it a very different way. Come in a big metal pot and a big wooden like spindle thing, and they roll it, and it makes it a really nice cream. And you have to use a special chocolate from Colombia, and nobody's been over to chuck some in their case. Do you know what I mean? So,
it'll come soon enough, hopefully.
When it comes to culture, though, and understanding sort of society and sort of mainly sort of how lucky we are as a society, as British people. Do you feel like it's really important to get out there and look at other cultures around the world?
Absolutely. It's so important. Unless you understand where people are coming from and how they're living or how they've lived, what they have to put up with, the poverty in many places that we just do. I mean, a lot of people work at a very low poverty level. I mean, we talk about a poverty level in our country, and let's face it, you want everybody to have a reasonable standard of living. That's fine. But our poverty level is so far higher than a great many countries in the world. And it angers me a little bit sometimes when people talk about, I haven't got this and I haven't got that. They ought to look at and examine some other countries, especially in Africa and India and lots of places in the world. But it's all relative, isn't it? It's all you can only see what's in front of you, can't you?
Yeah. I mean, if you're complaining because you've only got 5 games for your PlayStation... like, you know what I mean? I know
bread on the table.
Yeah. I know poverty levels are getting worse here in the UK, and it's really affecting people. But at the same time, when it comes to I don't know, being agoraphobic, or when it comes to not understanding about different cultures and being quite insensitive, I feel like you need to go and be there. You need to go and live it for a little bit. Definitely. I mean, I've been to very luckily been to many places and seen many cultures, and I always say to my wife, I want to go off the beaten track. I don't like necessarily going to all tourist places. I mean, I've been to Skegness, which was just a nightmare for me because there's lots of people, lots of flashy things for the kids to buy, and it's all touristy stuff. I like to be able to just go and do what the locals do. So when we go to last time we went to Colombia, we went to Zipaquirá, which is a salt mine, which is miles and miles out of town. I went to La Calera, which is where they have all these amazing food huts in the mountains. beautiful, quiet places that aren't full of queues of people in bloody Mickey Mouse hats and wanting to queue up for things and cause chaos, because tourism can be quite damaging. Do you know what I mean? But like, either way, you need to go out there and just experience life, I think.
You
But I don't
really
wanna
do,
lecture
because
people.
you understand not only their cultures, you understand religions. You learn about things like, be it Buddhism, Mormons, animism. There's
Nature.
all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Nature, yeah. I mean, you learn a lot about yourself as well. That's the other side of the coin. You start to examine your own views on different things, and I think it helps you a lot.
Yeah. There's a different holiday for a different thing, isn't there? Sometimes you need that holiday sitting by the pool reading a book, if you remember to take it with you, that is.
That's true.
And speaking of like, Claire's been on the show before, Peaks Travel. She's come on the Biscuit before, and we were talking about sort of helping local, sort of independently grown travel agents, because COVID has caused a huge issue with the travel industry. How can people sort of help? I mean, obviously, it's all just too easy to book a holiday online now, but you encourage people to go to sort of independent travel agents and book.
I think it's critical for their survival, because at the end of the day, you may not have that choice if you don't support them now in the future. But I, for the reasons I mentioned before as well, the professionalism, the knowledge, the ability to find you a better deal, having a face, be able to talk face to face with somebody who knows and understands and listens to what you want, rather than tries to sell you something that is better for them than you.
Yeah.
And I think a local company, like everything you buy locally, you feel better dealing with somebody local. You feel like you're supporting the local economy, but you've got a friend in that business then, haven't you? You've got somebody you can go back to and say, I've got a problem with this, or what about that? Whereas on the internet, you try getting hold of some people. If you can't even get a reply to an email, let alone a telephone call.
Yeah, and it's always nice as well. That I mean, talking about the older experience of going to the travel agents and booking a holiday. It was always nice when you could tell people when they're genuine. They could lean into you, be like, "Oh no, I had a friend stay at the hotel. It's really nice, actually. You really like the pool for the kids, And them kind of like interactions are really important, because they understand the environment around them. What's next for you? Because obviously, we've got. I'll hold it up again, guys. Morgan, please get this book. Where can people get this book, by the way?
You can actually go to any good bookshop, and if it isn't on the rack, they can order it for you. You can go to my publisher, Troubadour, and you can come direct to me, of course. And there's ways of paying with a credit card with me through PayPal and various things. Oh, and Etsy.com, dare I say it, online.
Yes. Good. I'm glad that that's one thing COVID did bring, those that people just found ways of being able to sell things virtually, and Etsy was just a massive boost for a lot of people.
It was, yeah. It's beneficial.
You're working on a children's book, is that right, or is it out now? Or
yeah, I've got 3 other projects, and again, I have to think about my mortality, so I work hard as I can between the chemo cycles. But I've actually written the first draft of a second historical fiction novel. It's a similar genre. It's Second World War again. It's based on a lady in the SOE, but it's based very loosely on a true story I was told that nobody really knows. So I'm looking forward to trying. I've got to go back and redraft that and get it to the publisher, and then it gets knocked around an awful lot, of course. I'm writing a biography. Again, that came out of a conversation I had by accident with somebody, and their mother was in the SOE in Cairo in the Second World War. SOE is Special Operations Executive.
Wow.
And she was I think the best way to explain it, she was like a cipherine, a decryptographer. So a bit like the ladies and gents at Bletchley, but she worked in the Balkan theatre of war. So she dealt with Yugoslavia, Greece, Albania, those sort of places. And it was quite an interesting story that I was told. And fortunately, I've been blessed by her family, have given me all her diaries and letters from the time. So I've got a lot to work with, really. But it's the story of her life. That was a huge part of it, and a very important part of it. But it's the story of her life as well. And she's a very interesting lady, let me put it like that. So
Wow.
there's that one. There's the second novel, and there are I've written. I'm finished now. Actually, The Adventures of Toggle and Tarka, which is a black Labrador and a black Cocker Spaniel. And I enjoyed writing. I write it. Whereas my first children's book was a story based on stories from my father and uncle, actually, of a Welsh mountain hill village in the 1930s. This is a story which is more modern day. And it is based on these two dogs who are big buddies, and actually it's based on stories on two dogs we looked after house sitting, and they've got such characters. We just couldn't help but write a story. I write it in the Dr. Seuss type manner because I rhyme it all the way through.
We'll have to give it the Timmy test.
Yeah, indeed. I would hope, Timmy. And in fact, those are your critics. Those are the people who need to read it, really, as well as the parents who hopefully will get something out of reading that to some of the children. But it's also the illustrations that go with it. My good lady Diane is very good at that. And this time the illustrations are going to be in a sort of Beatrix Potter style, sort of like, coloured. What's the word I'm looking for? Sorry,
like a fairy tale, sort of the pastel type colours.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's the sort of style. So it brings the characters to life.
I love your creativity, Ron, and I love that. In the face of what you've faced, to put it in a way, you haven't just like buckled under and been defeated. You haven't just fought for your own health, which you have done. You've done an amazing job with sort of making sure that you get through your resilience. There you go. That's the word, Whiteley. Your resilience is very inspiring.
It helps, in fairness. It focuses you. It gives you a focus as well. And it helps you through. But also within that time, and this is where I want people to realize, you can live a life. I mean, in the last 6-7 years, I've had 2 serious operations. I've had an ileostomy. I've had most of my liver's gone. All my bowels gone. They're huge operations, but you can live on from it, and actually in many ways live quite a decent life. But you still battle with the cancer, of course, or dance with the cancer, as I like to say. But the bottom line is I've been to Australia. I've been to Bhutan. I've climbed to the Tiger's Nest, as did the royal couple. William and his good lady, and all ambitions that you have. I've been back to India because I love the place and try to help with different orphanages there. But we've done loads of house sitting, just done lots of things. We climbed the height of Everest, or the equivalent to the height of Everest.
Congratulations for that, by the way. That was amazing. You raised so much money. That was amazing.
Yeah, Great job. Were very well supported by the kind people there. And obviously Lincoln Davis and 7 Hospices were the beneficiaries. And but the point is, you can still do things. You do them on your terms. I'm no Ranulph Fiennes or anything like that. But you achieve what you can achieve. And I think by setting targets, it takes away the focus of the thought of your mortality. Yeah,
that finish line, brilliantly put. Because that's what was one of my questions written here was, does the finish line, the focus on the finish line, help you? And I think it's a really important lesson for anybody that's struggling with sort of any cancer or any sort of illnesses. That life is difficult anyway. Never mind when you're thrust with that in your face. So I'm glad that you probably offered a bit of a life, not necessarily a lifeline, but a bit of a drive. There you go. For people in similar situations to you, Ron.
Yeah, be positive and just look at all the good things. Look the fact that the sun is shining. Look that it's a beautiful rainstorm. Think that the leaves are off the trees and how beautiful the colours are. And I must admit, it has accentuated my senses. That I spent too much time rushing around doing different things. And I take time to listen, smell, taste, all those things that I never had time, or I didn't think I had time for. And you just you take your time to do that now. And I still get carried away with all the things I used to love and still love, like watching Shrewsbury Town and depressing myself, and all those sort of things. But
it's a thing.
But I love it. It's part of my life. I love the club. I love the football. I love the hills around Shropshire. I love the going to little cafes when I can in town, which we've got a great cafe culture in town now, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
And look forward to getting back to seeing and hearing more live bands and music and theatre and all that as it starts to thrive again.
Yeah. What's the process of writing? Do you like to sit at home and write, or do you like to go find a coffee shop to sit and disappear in?
I think you have to have a base and sort of write, but because and I mentioned this in the book a lot, we took to house sitting a number of years ago, so we wander around the country, different places, and look after a menagerie of things. Not always cats, not always dogs. We've looked after llamas, sheep, pigs, horses, trick ponies. Just a whole host of things, and it's been amusing. My husbandry has gone from zero to I'm not bad now. I understand quite a lot about a lot of animals, So you learn things. But to answer your question, the reason is we go to all these places and they're quite inspirational. You go to different places. We go to the Welsh coast quite a lot to house sit. We've been all over Yorkshire, all over the country, but also been to places like Dubai to house sit and look after.
Wow, what an experience!
Saluki hounds there. But actually, we used that as a base once we finished the house sit to go and explore Oman and the Empty Quarter, and that, which was fantastic. It was almost like going back to Lawrence of Arabia days. It felt. I mean, Dubai. Dare I say this? It's nothing to write home about for me. It suits some people, perhaps. But to me, it's just a creation in the sand there of a lot of skyscrapers and what have you.
A lot of cloak and dagger stuff going on there, yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I like the Oman, somewhere like Oman, which is far more authentic as far as the old Arabian thoughts that I sort of grew up with. So, you get other benefits from there. And I've mentioned other places in the book. I won't steal my own thunder, and things that we appreciated.
One of the places that always shocked me was Marrakesh. Honestly, what an experience that was. We were like, let's go into let's go have a look in the bazaars and stuff in Marrakesh. We got off the bus and oh my God, what an experience. And people walking up to you, monkeys, and trying to say, oh yeah, you can see them all walking towards the tourists. You kind of like, oh my God, it was my anxiety. We were supposed to go and have a look at all these things, but we were like, I just need a cafe. We went and found one of the Sky cafes because all the cafes were on the roof. I was just like, well, have a drink, have some food, we'll get a bus home because this is just it was just so intense, honestly.
Yeah. Jem El Fanar, the big square there, which you obviously went into, where they're wandering around you. My good lady, she loves all that sort of stuff. But the first time we went there together, this guy just came straight up behind me and put a snake around my neck.
Yeah.
And my good lady hates snakes. And to me, it didn't faze me at all. I thought, oh, that's quite amusing, He's obviously not going to put a boa constrictor that hasn't been, defanged or whatever around my neck.
And you realise where you are.
But we all take that differently, don't we? And there is a throng of people, and that's not good for everybody. I happen to love Marrakesh, and I love getting out into the hinterland, up into the Atlas Mountains to places like Tamatert and places like that. It's a wonderful country, Morocco.
Off the beaten track, like I said, that's my ideal thing. Just take your time, go there and explore, like Indiana Jones.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my idol growing up as a kid. Indiana Jones, going to find a nice time. You can't do that now these days. You can't find a deserted temple to crawl around. It's just not,
You'd be surprised. There's still some places in the world that you've just got to go a lot further off the beaten track.
There are times where even when you're with a group of people, I mean, when we were in Greece, we went on this boat trip where we went sort of diving and free diving and went in these underwater caves and stuff. And, moments like that are what you go for, isn't it? Jumping off a cliff into the sea and, I don't know, those things are just the memories that you go for. And then document in a book later if you're lucky.
Absolutely. They're all buzzes, they're all experiences, and they're all different levels for different people of what they want to tolerate. I always remember actually, I don't think I mentioned this in the book, I always remember arranging many years ago a dive in a shark cage for somebody. And this was well before you used to see it on the television in documentaries and one thing and another. And this guy had obviously read about it and he wanted to do it. And so I had to try and source a place where he could go and do it. And I thought to myself at the time, I like adventure, but I'm not sure I'd want to do this. You know? And I've since seen it. I've seen some of these sharks hit these cages and bend the bars and think, I'm right. I don't want to do that.
I got a few friends that would just absolutely no. I got friends that can't even look at the Jaws poster without getting a bit. Like it's
and yet, strangely, sharks are misunderstood. I mean,
yes, of course.
I know I'm not a great swimmer, but I've gone snorkeling and swum with various things around me and thought, that's a shark, and. I wasn't knowledgeable when all these sharks are wandering around me, whether it's a tiger shark, a reef shark, or whatever shark. You just think that's a shark. And, there's a little frisson of fear goes through your body. But then the more relaxed you are, you realize they just wander around you and they wander off. They're just inquisitive like we all are. It's like every animal and human being. If you corner them, you'll cause yourself trouble.
Yeah. I always remember the first time I ever snorkeled. This is not a lie, and I've mentioned this on the show before. It's genuine. It happened, and it was one of the most magical moments of my life. And that, again, this is Hawaii, and we were at this big giant freshwater pool. It's like an opening, so wildlife can come in and go back out again. And I put the goggles on for the first time, took the tag off, as you do. Put it on, put my head under the water. And then started swimming. And the very, very first thing I saw was the massive sea turtle. And it was swimming along. And I was swimming alongside it. And it was just looked at me like, what? What do you want? And I very gently rubbed its shell. And it was full of algae. It was all slimy. Yeah. And then that's why it was one of the most amazing things I ever saw. It was massive.
They're almost prehistoric, aren't they? They're huge things beside you. And it's a great experience. You're doing that in the live. You're not at Sea World or anything. This is in the real open sea, isn't it? Or ocean there.
Yeah, this lagoon is just like it's like a bottleneck for wildlife, so they come in and they can come out. Yeah, it's really nice.
But Hawaii is fantastic. I mean, you may not have got to the section in the book yet, but I write a bit about Hawaii and the Arctic.
I haven't got that far yet. I'm looking forward to it though.
Yeah.
Where did you go in Hawaii?
All the islands really: Kauai, Maui, Big Islands, Molokai. All
I want to go back. I'm a big fan of Jurassic Park, and after I went to Hawaii and came back, I realized that Jurassic Park was filmed in Maui, and I was kind of like, right, we're going back.
It's funny. Everybody takes something different. Everybody's got an idea of experiences. In fact, the first time I first wanted to go to Hawaii, I wanted to go to Pearl Harbor. That was my main thing. But obviously life changes, and you have lots of other ideas then.
Yeah. I would recommend that to anybody though, because the way I don't know if when I went to see Pearl Harbor, what they did is they had this cinema, and you sit and you learn about Pearl Harbor and the tragedies that happened, and it's really like gut wrenching sort of documentary, really. And then the screen sort of opens, and then you literally walk through the screen onto a boat, and it takes you over to the memorial they got on the sea there over the Arizona. Yeah. And so you go from watching this documentary straight to over the boats, and you just kind of like, oh my god! And then you get to the memorial and the silence and because you like this memorial is just amazing. It's literally placed over the Arizona. So, and then they've got the names of every single person that was killed in the Pearl Harbor attacks on this memorial. So you can read the names, you can have a look around, and then you can look over the side at the Arizona, and you can still see the fuel leaking from the ship.
Yeah, it's just still insane. Bubbles coming up, aren't there? It's incredible. Yeah, it's
unbelievable.
I don't know when you went. Maybe it was quite a while back we went, but we actually still were able to talk to two of the vets that were there on the day. I mean, obviously they were quite old when we spoke to them, so they're perhaps not around now. But what a fascinating to hear them talk about the day. Was just unbelievable that these guys were sitting there and they survived the day and lost a lot of friends, of course.
Yeah. So if you ever find yourself in Hawaii, make sure you go and check out Pearl Harbor.
Indeed.
It's nice to see that the world is starting to open again and stuff. And it is both very good and very daunting. I mean, like I said, guys, I've just come back just yesterday, come back from Skegness full of cold because we've been socially distancing like everybody else does. And then all of a sudden, I'm in swimming pools, there's people around me, sat in busy bars. And I've got pictures of like literally look, I think the place we're in sits 2,000 people, and it was full.
Oh,
And just to be in that sort of scenario with all those people, for me, was kind of like, oh my gosh, like beans in a
must be
can.
tough.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, we just got on with it, had a few beers, you know, like you do, but it's always in the back of your mind now, isn't it? You know, and I have come back with the flu, which is why we're not doing this in person. Obviously, I don't want to make you poorly, Ron. You know, it's one of those things that's always going to be in the back of our minds now. So maybe we've learned a few things when it comes to travel, because you know, not only are there problems with COVID, but like there's a lot of monuments that get damaged and lots of wear and tear when it comes to tourism, right?
Yeah, without a doubt, and that's the sadness, really. I mean, it's this whole story of you know, the mass tourism, really, as opposed to you know, targeted tourism, where you know you limit the tourists in there. I think we've got to look at that more and more, a bit like the climate change factor. You know, you've got to change that, and it'll be better for everybody. The experience will at the end of the day. But money rules, doesn't it? It's a bit like, you know, it's not perhaps a great analogy, but it's a bit like people climbing Everest. Look how many people they get queued up on Everest now, and it's all about the money.
Yeah, of course.
It's sad.
It's a root of all evil. The root of all evil. Right, Ron, we're running short on time, obviously, and you've been an amazing guest again. And I don't care if we redo this exact same episode again, but as soon as I'm feeling a bit better, and you are too, I'd love to meet in person and do this again.
That'd be great.
Just to chat, because I love chatting to you. I think you've got a world of knowledge that I'm grateful to be seen put in books, but I feel like we could record a few podcasts and talk about your experiences and things, because I think we could learn a lot off you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. No, and we all learn, you know, like we did off our parents, and I think that's a critical thing in life, really. And it's something I've learned more and more, or appreciated more and more in the last 7 years, is listen to people. Don't tell them, as I've been doing to you this morning, about my life and experience. Listen to what their life's about and what their experience is. You learn. It's as easy as
absolutely
that.
But I appreciate it. It's paying it forward, isn't it? Take it from me, kid. You know, that's what I'm taking from here. You know, you're spreading your knowledge, and it's just amazing to hear. Guys, make sure you go and sort yourself out a copy of the book, Morgan the Travel, from the topic of cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. I love it. It's fantastic. If you're from Shrewsbury, you like nostalgia and you like hearing about things back from way back when, you'll definitely enjoy this book. There are a lot of things in there, obviously from a different generation, but my mum used to talk about the Bay City Rollers. My mum used to love the Bay City Rollers. So when you mentioned the Bay City Rollers, I was like, oh, my mum used to like them, you know. But like, you know, if you're from Shrewsbury from yesteryear, you'll appreciate some of the mentions in there as well. So make sure you sort yourself out a copy of that, and make sure you go and buy Don't Bring Me Flowers as well, because that's an amazing book. And Ron, you are very talented, and I wish you the best of luck with this book. Has the feedback been good? Have you had a good few people write back to you and say they enjoyed it?
Do you know, I've been blessed with it, really. You put yourself out there, and you try and say, you know, well, whatever people think, I've written the book and now or what have you. But the feedback has been pretty good, I have to say, you know. And I like to hear good or bad or comments on it, because that's the only way I learn too, you know. But I've been very humbled. I really have been humbled, and you know, if people take something from it, if they're amused by some of the anecdotes, if they're inspired by some of the things I've done since having cancer, or encouraged to be more positive about life, anything that they take from the book, you know, it'll mean it's been worth writing.
Well, I think you're amazing, honestly. So thank you for coming on. And what I need to do now, though, Ron, is I need to do a bit of housekeeping, tell people about a few things that's going on the Biscuit, if you don't mind, sir.
Not at all.
We have
the opportunity of talking to you.
Oh no, it's been amazing. It really has. I love talking to you, and you know, your stories will go on to live forever. So make sure you guys buy the book, because I mean, when it comes to like this sort of stuff, have you got lots of stuff written down that you can write more and more books with, like with the information that you've learned from around the world?
Oh, I could have probably written that book 3 times over, but you have to be a bit selective. And
yes,
even at 512 pages, let's face it, if you don't like the book much, you can use it as a doorstop.
Throw it at someone. Don't throw books at people, okay? We're doing this amazing thing, Ron, at the moment called Horses and Biscuits. It's a fun little show that we're doing with our friends over at Rocking Horse Studios. Gareth and the team there are making they're making a 90-minute pilot called Karen. It's a drama based in a nursing home, and they're at the moment they're auditioning for parts. We did our first show last Sunday. It's a live show that we're doing every 2 weeks, and we got introduced to the Izzy character that had been won via audition by Orla Jones, and we did a great show with them. We got another show coming tomorrow. Obviously, this show's going to go on a couple. Make sure you go back and check it out on our YouTube. We're going to tell you about the ALID auditions. Could this ALID be you? It's amazing. I've never sat for an audition before. I got to do the Simon Cowell thing and sit on a panel while people are these amazing actors that could doing things that I could never do. Are redoing these scenes, playing these scenes, and I got to give my opinions and stuff. And I got to say, I didn't like it. I loved it. And everybody laughed because I always wanted to say that.
That's pretty neat, isn't it? That's great. Another experience of life.
It was amazing, and they found the new ALID, but we will tell you on the show. Also, as well, like I mentioned to Ron earlier in the show, we're doing our vintage biscuit, and it's basically only on YouTube. We're going to be releasing all of our classic episodes of the Shrewsbury Biscuit. We're over 300 episodes now, which is fantastic feat. So make sure you pay attention to that. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and then you'll have access to all this. I'm going to release this on YouTube as well because it's visual. Why not? I want people to see this, as many people as possible. You can also go to our website as well, which is the shrewsburybiscuitpodcast.co.uk, and that's brought to you by our friends at Web Orchard. You can see there they make amazing websites. If you do need a website, if you're selling something on Etsy, if you have a tourist place, if you have a book you want to sell, whatever you want to do, if you need a website, go to Web Orchard. They will sort you out. And I don't mean to mix things up. I'm drinking out of a Reach cup here. That's one they gave me from from Pod Aid. But yeah, Ron, you've been amazing. Thank you for chatting to me. Seriously.
Well, thank you very much, Alex. Yeah, and God bless you.
Thank you. I forgot to mention quickly. We're looking for new biscuiteers. Shane has got a new job. He can't join me anymore on the show. We can't commit, which is a shame because I love him. But for now, he's stepping away. Jules is moving to Scotland. So we need a new biscuit. So I need a new co-host and I need a social media person. So if you're listening to this and we still haven't found someone, please get in touch via the website or via our Gmail, which is shrewsburybiscuitpodcast@gmail.com. Please get in touch. We're looking for people. If you can hold a good conversation and be a good ambassador for the show and for Shrewsbury, please get in touch. We need to hear off you. Right, what I'll do is I'll play the outro music. And Ron, thank you so much for joining us. Stick around and we'll have a chat afterwards. But thank you, listeners, for joining us. Catch you next time.
Thank you once more.
Peace out.